4 ways therapists can enable narcissists. My name's Jared Mello, the wizard of radical self-respect and the shepherd of black sheep. This is something that unfortunately happens all of the time, and it does a lot of harm to victims of narcissistic abuse. Here are 4 ways that it happens. The first way is when a victim comes into a therapist's office and they describe their situation to them. They describe the narcissist's behavior. And then the therapist says to them, you need to try to empathize with the narcissist more. You need to try to be more understanding of the narcissist and where they're coming from. And this is absolutely a terrible suggestion because victims are already too forgiving and understanding. They don't need to be told to be more forgiving and understanding and to empathize more with the narcissist. All the narcissist will do in this case is exploit and take advantage of your understanding. This is why it is a terrible thing for a victim to be told. What victims need to be told is trust the narcissist's actions first and foremost. And if they are abusing you and they are mistreating you, you need to act accordingly. Chances are, if this is happening to you, you have to try to make a plan to get out of that situation safely. And sure, there can be other variables, kids involved, financial variables, but if you can, you absolutely make a plan to get out of there safely because narcissists are not going to change. They're going to keep on treating you however they're treating you right now. The second way therapists can enable narcissists is by telling the victim to work on their communication with the narcissist. And this is another terrible suggestion because abuse is not a communication issue. Abuse is an abuse issue. All that's going to happen if you try to work on your communication with them is the narcissist is going to continue to twist and distort what you say. They will flip the script. They will use tactics like DARVO, deny, accuse, reverse victim and offender. They will externalize the blame to anyone and everyone other than themselves. They'll play the victim, fill in the blank, and the narcissist will do it. You have to remember, everything a narcissist does is for power, control, to manage their image, narcissistic supply, and to avoid accountability. When you understand that, their behaviors will make sense. Also to note, they know exactly what they're doing as well. One of the clues that you know exactly what they're doing is they don't treat everyone the same. There are some people that might think the narcissist is great. And the only reason why they think that is because they don't know the version of the narcissist that you know. You see the full version of them. You see how they act behind closed doors. Other people, they don't see that, so they're not playing with all of the information. But you are. But this is why communicating with a narcissist is a fool's errand. You can't try to be reasonable with someone who is not reasonable. Narcissists will not collaborate, they will not problem solve, and they will not try to solve conflicts with you. To try to do so is absolutely a mistake. Again, what needs to happen here is you need to make a plan to get out of there safely if you're dealing with someone who is abusing you. And again, the labels can help people identify what's going on, but ultimately, if they're abusing you, disrespecting you, and mistreating you, that is what matters, regardless of their label. The third way that therapists can enable narcissists is by simply not recognizing it when they go to couples counseling together. Say a client goes to couples counseling with a narcissist, and we don't recommend that for a very good reason, because what usually happens is the narcissist is going to try to convert the therapist to their side. And if the therapist doesn't understand narcissism and they don't see what's going on right in front of their face, the narcissist's manipulation tactics can absolutely work. Narcissists can often be charismatic and charming, and they can tell a good story and they can sound very convincing. Meanwhile, a lot of times the narcissist will try to bait and provoke you right before you go into the therapist's office, so you're on edge and you seem a little off, and the therapist sees this and they're like, what's going on here? Maybe the narcissist has a point. This person is the problem. But ultimately, the therapist doesn't understand because they don't recognize what's going on right in front of their face. But this is why we say, don't go to couples counseling with a narcissist, because what are you going to work on? It's not a communications issue. It's not something that you can try to empathize with. You can't try to be more understanding with it. The only person that can help the narcissist is the narcissist themselves. But that takes them to even admit they have a problem. And they very rarely do that. They don't admit they have a problem, so they don't even start the process of getting better. So don't even try to go to couples counseling with them, because if the therapist takes the narcissist side, what ends up happening is the victim feels even more isolated. The victim feels even more alone. Or they might think, wow, the therapist is agreeing with the narcissist, so the narcissist and the therapist, they must be right. I must really be the problem if even the therapist agrees. But no, what's going on is the therapist doesn't recognize the situation. You have to see it clearly to give an accurate suggestion to what to do. If you don't see it clearly, you're not going to be able to help in the best way. But again, don't even try to go to couples counseling with a narcissist. It is just going to be a waste of time. The fourth way that I see therapists enable narcissists is a little more covert, but I see this on social media a lot. And there's a group of therapists that they get really upset and they'll cry and they'll complain and they'll act like it's a massive tragedy when people misuse words like narcissist or gaslighting. And they're communicating with their actions that it is a bigger problem to them that people are misusing those words. And they're also communicating they don't really care about victims of narcissistic abuse. They really want people to stop talking about it because it's such a problem to them that people are misusing those words. My thoughts on this are, my goal is to spread awareness about narcissistic abuse and coercive control because my goal is to help the victims. And sure, when you talk about this stuff, some people might misuse those words. But to me, that is a very small price to pay. Because imagine you care more about the misuse of those words than the people who are being abused and going through hell. And if you're a therapist who's really hell-bent on getting people to start using those words correctly, and you're not talking about narcissistic abuse, you don't care about the victims. What are you even doing at this point? Just being contrarian to get more attention? Maybe it's a therapist that's even a little bit narcissistic themselves. That is also something that definitely happens. I'm going to have a video about that coming up soon, signs to look for a narcissistic therapist. But actions communicate loud and clear. If a therapist is really going to get bent out of shape that some people are misusing some words, it's like, get a grip. We're working towards a bigger goal here, and the bigger goal is to help victims of narcissistic abuse. The bigger goal is to help those people get awareness of their situation and get out of those awful situations. That's the bigger goal here. To care a little more about some people misusing some words, to me, that is absolutely outrageous. Get your priorities straight, because seriously, is being contrarian or getting attention and eyeballs on you on social media that much more important? And you're a therapist doing that? To me, that's out of control and outrageous. But to reiterate these 4 ways that therapists can enable narcissists, the first way is they'll tell victims to empathize more with the narcissist. That is absolutely a terrible suggestion for sure. The second way is, you need to work on your communication with the narcissist. Another terrible suggestion, because abuse is not a communication issue, it is an abuse issue. And all the narcissist will do is continue to exploit your understanding. The third way therapists enable narcissists is when they don't recognize narcissism and they take the narcissist's side in a couples counseling scenario. This only serves to isolate the victim more and makes them feel even more alone and traumatizes them even further. And then the fourth way is when they care more about the misuse of words like narcissist or gaslighting than they do victims of narcissistic abuse. And you know they think this because they care and cry a lot more when people misuse those words. They act like that's some massive tragedy. Meanwhile, the people who are being abused by them, that are actually being helped by this content, they don't care about that. They care much more that a small percentage of people are misusing those words. And to me, that is a very small price to pay in order to help victims of narcissistic abuse. But that's my video here for today. I hope you enjoyed my office setting here. I call this my wizard's office. And if you got this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. Hit the notification bell too, so you'll be notified when I come up with more videos, and comment below your thoughts on this. Are there any other ways that you see therapists enable narcissists? I'm sure there's more. I just didn't include them all. And maybe share this video with someone that you think might benefit. Maybe someone who's trying to go to couples counseling with a narcissist. Or maybe someone that is seeing a therapist that doesn't understand narcissism, so they're making some of these poor suggestions. Maybe someone like that could really benefit from this video. With that, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.